Guys, welcome back to game 2 of this awesome best of 5 series between Acer's Nerchio and LG IEM's MVP. This game was the second of a best of 5 series between these two amazing players. They fought for 3 or 4 days to get to this point. I don't know how many dollars are on the line here. I think the dollar amount was around 6, 7, 8,000 for first place, and maybe second place is a few $1,000s less. So the winner of this match gets a lot more money than the loser of this match. So that in that sense, there's a lot of money on the line in these next few games. Nerchio, after defending a 2 racks proxy 11-11 cheese from MVP into a 4 racks all in, was able to hold on there for Nerchio, and he did indeed come out with that first game win. So let's look at what MVP is able to do in this second game. Is he able to pull off a strategy like a cheese, or a fast, aggressive strategy, or is he going to go for a standard macro play? You know, at the end of a tournament, you can be really tired, and sometimes your macro play will get worse over time the more and more games you play. I mean, playing macro is just really hard to do. At these levels, the adrenaline rushing through your system for like 20, 30 minutes, and then if you lose, like the negative emotions that you feel, these are obviously professional gamers, so they are very, very good at dealing with those kinds of emotions and those kinds of stresses. But at the same time, if you're doing that all weekend, and you're not really playing, if you're not winning them all, if you're not playing in a dominant fashion, you can get really tired. So I think that these two players were playing really well, though, so they were probably feeling pretty confident and pretty good going into this final match. Nerchio sees the higher SUV count, as opposed to last game when he saw a much lower SUV count. Also sees the barracks, but most importantly, when you're scouting and you see the racks and the supply depot at the front, you need to check the gases. If there's one gas, it means that your opponent is probably going to do some kind of Hellion play. We're talking about Zerg now. If it's Protoss, if it's Terran, it might be different. But if you see the gas and you presume that it was taken before the barracks, that means Hellion play usually. Because what it allows you to do is if you take that gas first, you can get a factory right when your barracks finishes. But if you take the barracks first and then you get the gas, you're going to have a much later gas. And that's going to be more supportive of a play like later Hellions, or like maybe like some kind of Blue Flame Hellion perhaps if you get the double gas later. But really you want to gas first if you're going Blue Flame Hellions. So I'm not too sure the different kinds of plays that gas second would support. Maybe more of a barracks oriented style. I'm not sure. Because usually what players will do is they'll take the double gas after their command center, which is what MVP has done in this case. So you don't often see one gas. If in a Zerg versus Terran, like you'll see usually command center and then the second gas, or you'll see no gases and then 2 gases. So, anyways, that was a bit of my musings about the gases in Terran versus Zerg. So, Nerchio, on the other hand, has not taken any gases. He's getting a decent drone count up. He is going for the 4 queen opening, which is a really solid opening nowadays. You like to get the extra queens so you can do creep spread. And when that creep spread reaches your 3rd, you can then build a hatchery here, or you can even build it before. And then when the hatchery finishes, the creep will start to extend this way. Your creep tumors have extended this way, and so you can move your queens over to that 3rd base, which will allow you to defend better against Hellions, against Banshees, and we can see that Nerchio has had a little bit of a supply block, and he's overbuilt Overlords just a tad. Which is pretty much an unexpected thing to see out of a pro player. Now, Nerchio, playing a little bit differently than I would play. For obvious reasons, he's a really good player, and I'm not so good. But furthermore, he's going 2 gas. And usually I would like to go 3 gas and do a lot more of a tech play. But you can see that he's probably just going to stay a little bit lower tech than I would. And this lower tech option is really good if your opponent does fast pushes. It's good to be aggressive with. It's not so good, though, if your opponent is playing more for the late game. You want to get your tech up really fast and try to get up to Broodlords. But, you can also play it this way and play a really drone-heavy style. It just depends what kind of units we see coming out of Nerchio here. What kind of units will we see? Like, for instance, he's only going single evolution chamber, as opposed to a double evolution chamber, which is like something that I would do, or Stefano, and the Roach Warrens. So this is going to be basically, it's a metagaming from Nerchio, because at this tournament, all of the Terrans who were like really the best Terrans were doing mech builds, and so he's assuming that his opponent is going to go mech. And he's assuming that his opponent is going to go Cloak Banshee. That's been happening all weekend, and he's also seen these Hellions. So obviously, if you see a bunch of Hellions, the chances that your opponent is going mech is greater. You can obviously do just a Reactor Hellion into Bio, which is a really common play, or a Reactor Hellion into Marine Tank. But I would say if you see a bunch of Hellions, the chances are that he's still going to go Hellions in the future. In today's current metagame with the pros. Okay, now there's Cloak Banshee coming out of MVP here, as well as these Hellions and a really fast third base. I mean, he built this third base at like, what, 7 minutes? Like, gee whiz, man. He is playing really greedily, but he can get away with it because Nerchio has gone for this fast third, and Nerchio has to keep his units home to defend against these Hellions and these Banshees. And look, the Banshee's not even going in yet. It's just content to sit there. And how many workers have been killed? 15 workers have been killed already. And this style from MVP is really exposing a lot of the weaknesses that Zerg has been taking advantage of in the current, in the metagame of a couple months ago and last month, for instance. Like, basically, Zergs have been building only queens, and now you can kill just a ton of workers, because the queens will eventually bring down Hellions, they'll eventually bring down Banshees. But if you spend a little bit of money on these harassment units, oh my god, he's killing so many workers. Oh, and you can see the money starting to climb a little bit there. It's hard to micro Banshees and macro at the same time. Banshees require a lot of APM to use effectively. Of course, they're friggin' Cloak Banshees, so you can also just leave them and they'll kill like 80,000 units because they're friggin' OP. No, just kidding. Here comes the Viking out, and I love the Viking. I love when Terran players do this Viking, because this Viking can rack up a ton of kills. But to me, more importantly than the Overlord kills, is simply the amount of map vision you can deny with this. I mean, he's already killed 2 Overlords. Think about all the scouting information that is denying from that Nerchio can never receive. And now let's check the worker tab. Oh my god. Dude, look at this. 65 to 57. And that's not even counting... Where's that zip one? He was hitting the refinery. Alright, but that's not even counting mules, man. And so Zerg is in a terrible position right now. Zerg is in a really awful position. MVP just killing 31 workers. I mean, he has such a massive lead. And going into game 3, if I'm Nerchio, I don't want to do the same build. Because if MVP does the same build, he's going to kill a ton of drones again. How many kills does this Viking have? See, 3 overlords. That's what I'm talking about right there. I mean, if you just look at the starport, the Viking is 150, 75, so that's 225 resources total. Terran doesn't care that much about gas in general. Like, they're more balanced than Zerg, who really want gas. So the fact that Zerg has lost 3 overlords, which could give us scouting information, and the Viking is only 225, and we still have the Viking alive, and it's going to kill another overlord. God, 5 overlords, dude. Sick. Here come the Hellions. Oh my god. And Nerchio cannot afford to lose any more units. Oh, jeez. 43 workers killed. How can Nerchio come back from this? MVP is just looking to be in an absolutely dominant position. Even making it a friggin' planetary fortress at this base, so counterattacks are basically taken away, and making an extra orbital command that he can float over here, or even just use it for mules and for extra SCVs. Send SAVs to repair his Thors. Look at him, he's walling this off, so now units can't just run by here, so, whoops. So, I would say that MVP is looking to be in a great situation right now. Now, what tech do we have coming out for both players? We can see still the Banshee production going on. And this Banshee production is going to be so useful to MVP if any all-ins come, because the Banshees will be able to just absolutely decimate any roaches. We also have Ravens coming out. We've got tons of upgrades. And for Zerg, we still have 2-2 coming out. We have Lings, we have Aspire. We have a Zerg who's trying to go for Broodlords. But I don't think it's going to work because his economy is just not good enough. And once MVP starts adding additional starports, he's going to be able to slam out Vikings. Oh man, look at all of the factories that he has over here. Really sick play by MVP, man. And I guess I'm learning with you guys here, because I don't know much about the infrastructure of mech. So it looks like when we're doing this mech play, we want to get 5 factories with 4 tech labs, a reactor, and then a tech lab starport to get out those Ravens and those Banshees. No, losing infestors. We cannot afford to lose infestors. He scans because he's got extra orbitals, so he can do that. And meanwhile, losing so many infestors to those Banshees. Now the 4th base is finally up for Nerchio. But look, for MVP, the 4th base is about to get up, and he's on mech, so wow. Now, one thing I would say about MVP's play is it's not very drop proof. And what I do against mech is I do basically a 3 base all in, where I just make tons of roaches and I don't tech at all, and I just do tons of drops. And guaranteed that this only is going to work one time, because if Terran knows that that's coming, they can throw up a bunch of turrets, they can get a Sim City so that your roaches can't move around their base. They're going to get tanks up, and here comes a big push from MVP. So let's see what this is able to do. He's on creep right now, but he doesn't even care. He does not even care. And this is what we like to call leapfrogging the tanks. Oh no, losing all of those infestors. Oh, and charging in with the infestors will just get blown apart by these tanks. And what does Nerchio have? Oh, he's barely gonna hold this. Oh, but there are tanks over here now too. And so while Nerchio was able to clean up the majority of those forces, he still has this over here to deal with, and he has no ground army. So MVP can just totally go home with this. I mean, he's fine. He killed a ton of infestors, and sure, he lost a few units, but if we just look in the units lost tab, look at this. Terran is like feeling pretty good right now, because Zerg has lost way more than us. I will say that engagement could have gone better for MVP. He was caught a little bit unsieged, but he still managed to clean up basically all of Nerchio's stuff. So I still love the position that MVP is in, and this bird roach being super annoying. MVP can't exactly send anything over there to kill that right now because there's so many roaches on the map. So this 5th base for MVP is going to be delayed, but Nerchio doesn't even have a 5th, so Terran is really okay to just sit around, basically. If you're on the same number of bases as Zerg, if you're playing mech, just sit around. Let them attack you, man. Just keep scanning them constantly. If they're going for ultras, then you just get more Thors up, and you can even add in some Marauders, like, because Marauders are just friggin' amazing against those ultras. You don't even have to, man. Just chill out. And if he goes for Broodlords, oh man, Nerchio sending his Broodlords with absolutely no anti-air, but the transfuse is brilliant there by Nerchio, able to save that Broodlord. But he still only has 3 Broodlords, and 5 Vikings do not care about 3 Broodlords. I mean, oh, now 7 Vikings? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's like having 3 Colossus and having like, I mean, these are it's you can get more Broodlords than Colossus, but I mean, think about having 7 Vikings versus like 1 or 2 Colossus. That's kind of like what this scenario is like. I mean, you'll just absolutely roast the Broodlords instantly. So this Viking count is really getting out of control because MVP knows that this mech army is way more powerful than anything that Zerg can produce on the ground. I mean, Roach Ling That's not scary to a mech army, really. Especially if you have Blue Flame Hellions in there, which he does, and he's got 2-2. He's not getting the third armor upgrade, and it's 21 minutes into the game. I really would like to see a faster armor upgrade out of MVP here. We need to get 3-3 on mech is just so friggin' good. And we've seen that MVP as a tactician he's really a brilliant player as a tactician. I'm not saying his micro, his macro, his any other aspects of his play are, oh, and he's unsieged. But he has so many Vikings in the air, they're killing absolutely all the corruptors. Meanwhile, the Blue Flame Hellions were inside the tanks, and the tanks were actually tanking for the Blue Flame Hellions. And the Blue Flame Hellions were able to roast all of the frigging Zerglings, man. And now what's left is just roaches. I mean, he doesn't even have a Broodlord left. And he lost his last Corruptor, so he can land these Vikings behind. He can do whatever he wants with these Vikings right now. And look, MVP does not even need to siege up. He is just going to absolutely crush this army. Explosions, queens burning to a crisp. And what can Nerchio do in game 3 to come back? I mean, after losing 40-something workers, what can he do in the next game? I don't know, guys. It is tied 1-1. Nerchio, I hope you find a way to deal with this mech play. I want this to go to game 5. So do what you can, Nerchio. Do what you can.